Hello, welcome everyone back to the second part of this first special myth episode about why some people don't like Tesla. Now, before we go on and discuss the two important categories from the sentimental and also the livelihood angle of why some people don't like Tesla, again, a disclaimer that I'm not out to dispel all reasons. I believe some are legit, especially the two categories that I'm going to cover today. And I don't work for any of Elon's companies. I wear this shirt just because I love it. And please help and subscribe to my channel and share to your friends to educate them more on Tesla myths. Now, as usual, this is not financial investment advice and it's for entertainment purposes only. Now, without further ado, let's get into the third category, or the first one for this half episode, about sentiments. Basically, people don't like Tesla because they don't like Elon Musk. Now, he's a billionaire. In fact, he was the richest man on earth, at least officially on paper, for quite a while. Recently, Tesla's stock price went down, so he's no longer the richest, but he's still up there, one of the top billionaires. And let's just admit it, right? A lot of people just dislike billionaires. They would be a lot of people working like 10, 15, 20, $30 an hour, while billionaires make hundreds of thousands of dollars a day, sometimes more. It just doesn't make sense. We're all human beings. Why one is worth so much more than the other person? Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Now, this may not be very fair, but this is how the capitalist countries work, and that's how the system is at the moment. It might not be super fair, but that's how the rules are. So we can understand that why some people will hold a grudge against billionaires. It's not their fault. It's a natural human reaction, especially when those billionaires don't particularly look like very morally upright people that we hold our values to. So their values may not align with ourselves very much. And when there's disagreement, it's easy for us to hate on them. Why should they be making more money than us so much more? Especially when Elon Musk is so politically incorrect sometimes, especially on Twitter and on many news media. What he say can be very brazen as well, very tough, very straightforward. He doesn't even talk or act like a CEO on news medias. He actually talk like a normal person. And to a lot of us normal people, that is just not acceptable. Especially if we have our money invested in him, or we're driving a car that's so tightly coupled to his name, right? When people see you driving a Tesla, they know you're driving a product made by Elon Musk. So the name and the product is just tightly coupled. It's very hard to separate the product from the CEO. So it's very easy to dislike the product when the creator or the CEO of that company is not acting very smoothly, acting like a person that everybody can get along with. So, and Elon Musk being himself, he's such a controversial figure. He does all these crazy things. First of all, he's on Twitter all the time, being opposed to unions. And when he does that, you're inviting half of the country, including the most powerful half, to go after you, right? So this is not very smart, and it's naturally very easily turn a lot of people against you, especially when you make these very politically sensitive contents on Twitter. Every time you do something like that, you are alienating 50% of the world's population or USA population. So when you do it enough times, it's like flipping a coin, right? Every time you flip a coin, there's 50% chance you can lose, right? So if you basically, every time you make a politically sensitive statement, you lose 50% support. And then you make another one, you lose another 50% support, which will leave you with 25% support. Then you make another statement, then it will leave you with 12.5% people support. You keep doing that, very soon you're left with very, very small percentage of people who still fully agree with you. So that's why it's easy to dislike Tesla, because it's very easy to dislike Elon Musk with all these sensitive, like outlandish stuff that he talks about and does, right? So that is a very legit reason. Although he's tuned down a lot since the crazy days of him provoking the Russia's president Putin to a cage match, even though that was an insider's joke. Basically he's saying, we are all on the world stage, playing drama, doing a show for the world. At the end of the day, we're just normal people. We don't really want bad things to happen to the world, to people, but we gotta just act our part for the world stage to look at. But even though that's an insider's joke, it's still very, very incendiary, and a lot of people take it the wrong way and think he's actually challenging a powerful figure like Russia's president, and have made attempts at his life, maybe not for that reason, but for other reasons. That's why Elon Musk is requiring so much security, like secret agent level type of security around him, because he's by far the most important person on earth, basically, other than the presidents, right, of the world. So it's very easy to hate on Tesla because of Elon Musk's antics, right? So to summarize this point, let's talk about some of the sensitive tricks that he's done over the years, right? First of all, he gave attention or some share or reply to some anti-Semitic conspiracy theory or some war accounts. He shouldn't be doing that as a CEO, right? Even though you're a normal person, you probably want to stay away from that sort of controversial topics and very incendiary topics, but he didn't. He just like a normal person and just like share reply on those things whenever he feel like he's aligned. So that's just not very smart as a CEO. Even though he might not be fully aligned, he's just like giving those tweets or those accounts legitimacy by giving it attention, right? And another thing he talked about is COVID-19 not being as severe as reality suggests. And he was wrong, and he knew it. Eventually, he backpedaled on the stance and actually donate money to develop more vaccines and help. But yeah, he could be wrong, and he could still be outspoken about things. And that's kind of worrisome for a lot of investors and the image of Tesla, right? Because like I mentioned, his name and Tesla are just inseparable. They're just too tightly coupled. And he also got in a fight with some diving instructor, calling him names, and he got into a lawsuit. Eventually, Elon won, but it was just not a good thing for most richest guy on earth, most powerful guy to get entangled with, right? And he, not to mention his encounters with the SEC on the stock price manipulation about the funding secured or the price is too high kind of tweets. It's just like it could piss off a lot of stockholders because you are changing the price because of what you say at any moment, which makes it very hard for people to make a living off of trading this stock sometimes, even though they are aware of the risks, but they still don't want unnecessary risk. So, and there's also that famous crazy go F yourself to the advertisers who blackmail him in the Twitter platform, right? Like, if you don't let me censor certain contents when I display my ad, I'm gonna pull out and I'm gonna try to boycott you by convincing other advertisers to pull out. And that actually happened, a big exodus of advertisements on the Twitter or X platform. And at the end, Elon proved, he said, go F yourself, I don't need you, my platform will speak for itself. And eventually they got most of the advertisers back. But still, that wasn't very good to engage in such a manner. But he was just somehow more in tune with that world than we are. Eventually, he found a way to sort all of those out. So it was less a deal than we thought it is, but still, that was just very, it doesn't give people a very comfortable feeling. So for you to like Tesla, you have to kind of like Elon Musk. And it's not an easy thing to do because he's so privy to information that we don't have. A lot of outlandish things that he does might actually be quite reasonable, brave stances. We can never be sure, but apparently coming to this point in reality, it seems that things that he's done make somewhat sense. He's still here, still the most important person, still making huge impacts, right? So that's why it's easy to hate on Tesla with all the things that Elon does. Now, another sentimental reason is for the famous underdog mentality, right? A lot of people actually like a lot, like especially if you're not in important positions in a company or you're not one of the elites or one of the more well-off folks. If you're an underdog, if you're working a hard job And if you feel like your boss is like oppressing you, a lot of times you have this underdog mentality that you want to root for others who are in a similar situation and basically hate on any big names in power, especially the ones who express like brazen, abrasive tactics, you know. So Elon Musk definitely fit that profile, right? He's making these statements on the world stage that can be easily misconstrued, misunderstood, right? Because we're not privy to everything that he knows. So it's kind of like, you know, Michael Jordan back then, right? I mean, he actually does a lot of things on the up and up. The only problem is that he has a gambling problem, but he kept it under control. Yeah, he has a temper problem, but then people also understood him and gave him slack. But still, and then MJ was the king in basketball, and still people hate on him, right? Because he could be sometimes very aggressive. When you are the biggest name in something, whether or not it's basketball, in electrical vehicles, or in anything, when you're the biggest name, people will give you less slack. They will have huge scrutiny on every aspect of your life, of your personality. And logically, deduction, because nobody is perfect, when the bigger the scrutiny the society has on you, the more flaws they see. And your small flaws become bigger. So for that underdog mentality reason, it's very easy for people to hate on Elon Musk for all these antics that he's pulled off, right? Now, finally, a reason that is not too big, but it is also non-negligible, is that a lot of Tesla owners actually give off this kind of holier than thou vibe, like I'm better than you. Even though certain ICE car or gas car people also do the same with the really famous brand, you know, they drive a crazy race car, acting like they're all that, sure. But then also Tesla owners, some of them give off that vibe because they believe their technology is just superior. Everything about Tesla is superior than other cars. Now that is actually, even if objectively speaking, some of that is true, giving off that vibe is never correct, right? But some people just cannot help but be arrogant about it. Now, that's not generally the whole Tesla community's attitude. I can speak for myself and others, although at a certain point, I do give off that vibe accidentally, because we feel like, hey, from all perspectives, like specs and pricing and convenience and environmental concerns, you know, Tesla is just better than all the other cars, you know. But then you shouldn't give off that vibe, because that might be true at this moment. Being arrogant doesn't help anything. And if you're truly humble about helping the earth, helping environments, you wouldn't hold that attitude. But unfortunately, some members in the community take on that extreme and sometimes display that attitude. But that should be a minority. Now, that concludes the sentimental category. Why it's so easy to dislike Tesla? Because of sentimental reasons. Finally, this category is called a livelihood category, and it's a big one. It's, again, a very legit reason to dislike Tesla, even though it might not be the most logical, reasonable. It's very understandable why a lot of people dislike Tesla because of this reason. Now, first of all, a lot of people, most people, especially the older folks, are not good with changes. Now, EVs is like a completely different direction of the way we've been making cars for the last 100 years. You know, been using gas, you know, more than 100 years actually. We've been using gas, and we've been creating the engines, combustion engines in almost the same way with very little changes. The physics behind it, the mechanics behind it are all almost the same. Now, because EV is such a new thing, you need new chargers, you're using electricity, the way you operate it is different. You know, your speedometer is not even in the middle, it's on your screen. Everything is on one screen, there's no buttons, it's all touch screen. You know, there's no brake, only, I mean, you can brake. No, there is a brake, but there's regenerative braking, you brake automatically. Like, all these things are very different. You know, you control your car from your phone, almost everything. So a lot of people are not used to changes, especially big changes like this. And because of this reason, a lot of people find the opportunity to politicize EV to be like conservative versus radical, right? So they basically label Tesla as radical and basically cater to the conservative crowd that EVs are bad for you, right? Like certain presidential candidates it's doing right now, right? Because if you don't do that, you could lose your job, right? In America, there's a huge industry that's circling around the gas or ICE cars, vehicles, you know, the whole ecosystem of, you know, car repair, gas, you know, selling cars, the whole supply chain. It's a huge industry, right? Auto, right? In America, there's so many cars, right? I don't know the official figure, but there might be almost as many cars as like there are like half of the people in this country, or maybe more. So you could lose your job. Your whole family was relying on like maybe mining for oil, maybe creating certain the skeleton of the car. If you support EV, you could lose your job. Your grandchildren can lose your job. Your whole city could lose all its income. A lot of people have to not support electrical vehicles, especially Tesla, for this reason. They want to keep their jobs. They want to live the exact same way they've been living. They don't want to change. They don't want to use an EV and have to learn all these new things. I know my ICE car inside and out, transmission, engine, cold air intake, all these things. Now there's none of that. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't feel like I have control over my car at all anymore. So because of the fear of change, a lot of people get politicized and just hate on EVs, right? And Tesla. So that's one reason of livelihood why some people dislike Tesla. Now, another big reason is that because Tesla is so strong, the company is run in such an efficient and basically the smartest manner. As I covered in this other episode, Tesla and SpaceX are like the most desired place to work for engineering students because they do the coolest stuff. They're cutting edge, most efficient in manufacturing, smartest in technology, working on first principles in physics. So when you're the strongest guy, you tend to generally forget to play along with the establishment of the existing players. They have their certain rules, the tribal dues that they have to pay. But the Tesla figure, I'm here to change the world. I'm not gonna play along the existing system. Why should I, right? Now Tesla has a point, but Tesla has the right to not pay the tribal dues, to not play along, but the existing tribes also have the right to try to kill you in any way they could. And that's what they're doing. Now, to give you concrete examples, what are the existing tribes, right? So first there's unions in the United States, and then there's the legacy automakers, right? And there's the Wall Street money, right? The fund managers and the power behind Wall Street. And also very closely related is the advertising giants, right? Advertising is a huge industry. It's everywhere in the United States. No way around it. So there's like these big four forces. So I hope I didn't miss any big forces, but there are these four big forces that's going against Tesla. First of all, Tesla doesn't want to get unionized, right? Because being unionized means that it's very hard to fire them. And there's all these crazy benefits that they have to pay regardless of your performance as a worker. So Tesla does not want to get unionized. A normal profitable company does not want to get unionized anyway unless they have to. In Tesla's case, they don't have to. So union is going to go against them. Now, the legacy automakers, obviously, they wouldn't want to help Tesla because helping Tesla means that they're going out of business, right? EVs is superior in almost every way except charging at the moment. Once they build enough charging stations, it will no longer be inferior in charging. So, and also once the speed catches up, right, the charging speed. So legacy automakers don't want to help them. In fact, the legacy automakers will do everything they can to slow them down or even stop them completely because they need to keep their jobs. They need to keep their profits, Now, on the Wall Street, right? Now, Wall Street, there's a lot of power behind them. There's some big buyers. Every day there's hedge funds, billions and billions of dollars. Now, if you don't communicate well with them about what you plan to do, like, let the finance firms make their money, share the money of the pie with multiple people. You don't play along with how they've been doing things. Now, Wall Street is not going to help you, right? If you don't help them make money, they're going to try to bankrupt you, right? As they might have done so before, right? With their pushing the Tesla stock price as low as possible during its most difficult time of Model 3 ramp up. They pushed the Tesla stock price so low that Tesla couldn't really accumulate capital to continue their operations by selling stocks or even like issuing bonds, right? Like borrowing money from people because their credit is so bad. To borrow money, they need to pay a lot of fees and they just can't afford it. So Wall Street can do a lot of things to try to kill Tesla, and they have done so, and they may do it again. But right now, Tesla is in such a good financial position. They have over 25 billions in reserve. So they can basically survive without anyone's help for like 2 years. So Wall Street is another big enemy they have. And then the fourth big enemy is the advertising giants, right? Now, the advertising giants is not exactly against Tesla, but Tesla does not do any advertising before. And even now, they only do advertising on X, which is owned by Elon Musk. And they do a little advertising somewhere else, but not enough before. It's just almost nothing. And, hey, you're such a big company, you don't pay us anything? Like, then the whole advertising industry would not want to help Tesla, right? Would basically, like, whenever there's a chance, or just they would just kind of put Tesla in an inferior light, right? And also, related to Tesla is Elon Musk, and related to Elon Musk is the platform Twitter or X, right? Like, these advertisers want censorship. They don't want just about any ads to appear next to their content, right? So they want to censor what they are advertising next to, whatever people are posting about. They don't want to advertise next to like crazy speeches, right? So they need very full control of censorship. And if you don't allow that, the advertisers feel like they have no control on the platform, and they would basically go against you. So that's why they threat to exit Twitter, and they did, but many of them come back because it turns out they need the platform X or Twitter more than X or Twitter need them. So these are the big forces that are going against Tesla. And the reason I cover these forces is because they will create a lot of bad press and fake news. I kind of talk about this as I go through these four forces, but the key point is that they keep making bad press and sometimes fake news, misleading news about Tesla everywhere, right? So some of these results from these big forces are, I cover about trying to bankrupt Tesla in Wall Street, advertisers exiting Twitter or X, basically a bunch of them together. And there's like strikes, right, in Tesla factories by unions, and then environmentalist attacks by some progressive groups. And then there's fake news about EVs being easy to catch on fire. That's been debunked. I will probably create another episode just for that. Run out of battery in the middle of the road, which never happened. Like, that show was just not being truthful. Tesla has data to prove that. And then they're saying Tesla used foreign parts labor to take over Detroit's jobs, which is not true. Tesla is the most American company ever. Use a lot of American labor, use a lot of American parts, more than any other automaker, basically. And then they're saying, like, fake news, right? Continuing on this fake news is that, like, EVs produce more carbon dioxide, a lifetime perspective, than ICE cars, which is, again, very not true. But then they keep propagating these false narratives and, misleading news over the years, right? To try to push Tesla down, because this Tesla is not playing ball and they need to survive, right? The livelihood is the most important. When you threaten someone's livelihood or profit margin, they will do everything they have in their arsenal to stop you. And that is another big category, livelihood, of why people dislike Tesla. Now, to conclude, right, we have these four categories of big reasons of why people dislike Tesla. Now, when you finally understand all these four categories and why they happen, and you can see very clearly the truth behind Tesla. But before you can see through all these things, it's very hard to understand Tesla as is, because of these so many fake and misleading news out there, biased news outlets, right? So I hope this special episode helped you this weekend understand more about Tesla. And I will do an emotional profile soon on Elon Musk as a person to help you understand Tesla at the deepest level. The man who drives the growth of Tesla, who he is, how he does things. I hope you look forward to that episode. I know I am, honestly. So have a good weekend. I hope this helps you. Please like and subscribe and share to your friends for education. Thank you. Have a good one.